How you doing, guys? I'm back. I'm the Syracuse delegate. One more time for Jamani Williams. I didn't know much about Mr. Williams before today, but based on what I've heard, he's the real deal. So thank you for speaking here. I really appreciate that. But my name is Morris. I live in Syracuse right now, and I'm gonna tell you guys a little story to bring up Mayor Minor. You guys don't know this about me. I'm in the military, and I spent all of last year deployed. And I literally came back. My plane landed back in Syracuse on Inauguration Day, literally. So I left a different Syracuse than I returned to. Broken. It was rough. But when I came back, I saw like beacons of hope. Like everyone was down and downtrodden, and just disgusted. But I saw that things were happening that had me motivated. I saw that we had Trump Tuesdays that was actually being hosted by the city of Syracuse's mayor, Mayor Minor. And at the time, I thought that was awesome because just me and my mindset, I feel like this is a battle, this is a fight. We have enemies and we have allies, and you need your allies to step up in a time like now. And to see that she stepped up in that time, I thought that was amazing. But over the course of Mayor Minor's career, she's been one who she doesn't take any stuff. I almost cursed, guys. She doesn't take any stuff. And I admire that, because to be in a political position, I understand how much of a battle it is, because everyone's going to give you stuff and you have to say the right thing. But she doesn't take the right thing. When Trump does the wrong thing, she stands up and does the right thing. When Governor Cuomo does the wrong thing, she stands up and verbally says the right thing, the things that needs to be heard, and I love that. And she has a track record of doing it. And it's something that I'm very proud to, proud to call myself a citizen of Syracuse, because we're the city that's not taking that stuff. That stuff. But no, Mayor Minor was a graduate of Syracuse University. I attend there, and she's exploring a run to be the first woman to become governor of New York State. And that would be amazing. Just amazing to have that. I always consider that, we're New York. We're like a progressive state. We're the beacon. We're supposed to be the progressive lighthouse for America. We have New York City. And then you find out, no, we're not really that progressive. We have one of the worst voting systems. Legit, I think we're the 13th worst as far as voting, including the red states. We're 46. Yeah, we're the 46th best voting state. Not a math major, but I think we have 50 total, and we're 46. But to know that New York State is so bad, and then we have a governor who claims to be a progressive, it makes no sense. But my city's mayor has been calling him out on things like that, and I love it. And very proud to stand in front of you guys today and bring up the first woman to become mayor of a Big 5 city in the state of New York. The Big 5 cities: Rochester, Buffalo, Albany, New York City, and I'm forgetting one. Sorry. Syracuse. Wow. You guys are with it. But no, without further ado, allow me to introduce Mayor Stephanie Minor.
Thank you, everybody. I am so pleased to have been introduced by Maurice, or Mo, and I'm proud to share him with Brooklyn. As you can see, he's quite the leader, and it was really because of his activism and his belief. He has made Syracuse a better place, but he has also given me great solace. First, though, I want to just take a moment of a personal statement. I never thought that I would be at St. John's University defending the Orangemen and defending the color orange. So let me just say to you that this guy is such a disaster. He taints my whole life. I can't even root for my home team now without thinking about the Orange Menace, which had, up until about an hour ago, I would have thought, that's a cool title, man. Maybe even a great nickname for an up-and-coming politician. But not now. I, like Mo, and and I want to thank all of you being here. This has been a tremendously challenging time in our country. And I have found that the only solace that I have been able to get is through solidarity, is through gatherings like this, and understanding that we're not alone in our outrage, that we're not alone in our value system. So, if I may, let me tell you about my beloved Syracuse that now Mo calls home. It is a small city, the smallest of the Big Five, with a very rich history. It was an emancipated city in the 1850s, and the self-proclaimed king of the Underground Railroad lived there and made advertisements that he put in the newspaper, saying, if you are looking for freedom, you can stay with me. That's how emancipated it was. It was so emancipated that Colson, that in the Underground Railroad book, of which you all should read, Brooklyn's own, cites Syracuse as one of the free cities in the United States. We built and opened up the West with the Erie Canal, and we did that with the labor of immigrants and farm animals. The heartbeat of aspiration is part of our genetic inheritance. And we are descended from people who were born into adversity, but nevertheless dreamed and actively worked towards making our country a more perfect union. We believe deeply in the American dream. Part of why we believe deeply in the American dream is because it worked for so many of us, as I assume it has worked for a lot of people here in this room. But today, when my people of Syracuse look out, they wonder if the American dream is really a reality. Maybe it's just a delusion. They believe in change because change is how we as a people got to where we are. And we did it because we believed that government, as it did for our parents and our grandparents and our ancestors, should work for us to ensure equal opportunity for all of us. Because we believe and we know that talent in our country is universal, but opportunity is not yet. So I'd like to talk to you about some of the challenges that we face in Syracuse and in New York State. Let me first start off with the challenge of poverty. We, as I said, have a history of people being born into adverse circumstances and challenging circumstances. Most often that meant poverty. Today, 1 out of every 2 children born in the city of Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, Albany, and others will be born into poverty. And it's not just upstate. 1 out of every 7 children in New York City will be homeless by the time they reach 5th grade. And the vast majority of these children will be children of color. Upstate cities have the most economically and racially segregated zip codes in the United States. And that results in the poorest people in our state, in our Empire State, residing here. And if that weren't bad enough, data indicates that the lack of economic mobility in our state means that they will stay poor, that they will die poor, unless things change. What about our great equalizer, our schools? New York State has the most racially segregated schools in the country. And the courts have ruled that the state has violated the Constitution by underfunding large urban school districts. Yet those obligations year after year go unmet, and we will continue to have one set of schools for wealthy white children and a separate set of schools for children of color, unless things change. How about jobs? New York State runs these very expensive television commercials advertising the new New York. And it has spent $53 million on the Startup New York campaign in its first 2 years of operation, and created, by its own admission, only 408 jobs. That is $130,000 per job. But wait for it. The vast majority of jobs that the state has created in the past 8 years have been in low-wage industries, like restaurants and bars. Yet this failed economic development policy of robbing taxpayers to pay wealthy corporate interests shows no signs of abating unless things change. Our government, as you heard Jomani so eloquently talk about, our proud progressive history made us the Empire State. We are in a government where elected officials draw their own lines and choose their own voters, instead of voters choosing their own elected officials. We have made no real change in our state to make it easier to vote. No, in fact, we continue to make it hard to vote. Not surprisingly, as Mo said and Arthur stated, we have some of the worst voter participation rates in the United States. And we also have the loosest campaign finance rules in the United States. And reform initiatives to change these phenomena die every year and will die every year unless things change. No, we have leaders who like to use the word progressive like ketchup. They like to just pour it on everything and declare victory. But as Jomani said, progress means moving forward. And for far too many New Yorkers, there is no progress. And they will not know what progress means unless things change. Unless we demand, we being those of us in this room and outside this room, demand equity and funding for schools for all of our children, not just the lucky few. That a government that works for all of us, not just rich campaign contributors. This is up to all of us in order to do this. This is our time in American history to prove that we are indeed worthy of the American dream. That we will work towards that dream for all of us, not just a lucky few. As Sam Cooke said, a change is going to come. And a change will come. And we saw a change come in 2016. And it wasn't the change that we wanted. If we want the change to embrace all of us, if we want to continue to bring all of us along as our forefathers and foremothers did, as they risked their lives, as they marched in the streets, as they were beaten to get at the ballot box, as they said, we will storm the churches, we will storm the state houses for you to give us our rights. If we are worthy of that inheritance, now is the time to prove that. It is not the time to sit back and expect somebody else to do that. It is not the time to say that it's too much for all of us, that somebody else would do it. It is up to each of us. Because as I said to you, I know this firsthand. My people in the city of Syracuse are deeply aspirational. And they come from challenging circumstances and adversity. And they want more, and they know that they deserve more than they are getting. And they will find change. It is up to us to make sure that we're the ones that give them the change that they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Stephanie Miner.